Warren Buffett keeps buying these 3 stocks. Since Q2 ended 45 days ago at the time of recording, the 13F filings have already been released. Therefore, portfolio managers with at least $100 million in assets under management are required to file these regulatory documents with the SEC quarterly. It reveals their equities portfolios, making their stock picks available to the public. Obviously, seeing what the sophisticated money is buying and selling is a huge benefit for us regular investors. To kick off the 13F season, we're going to examine Mr. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, and arguably the greatest investor the world has ever known. Let's discuss Warren Buffett's stock purchases and sales from Q2 2022 and what they reveal about his current market perspective. For those of us who don't know, Warren Buffett invests through his firm Berkshire Hathaway rather than under his name, so in a sense, Berkshire is what we are looking at. Firstly, let's talk about the stock portfolio. What has Berkshire purchased and sold recently? Before we get to the big revelation, it's important to note that we will be concentrating on the top 10 holdings for the remainder of this video, and there's a solid reason for that. Warren Buffett is the cause, is the case. He is not the only individual who invests in the Berkshire brand. Additionally, Todd Combs and Ted Weschler manage $34 billion as the end of 2021, according to Buffett's most recent letter to Berkshire shareholders. Why does this matter? It basically means that Buffett isn't the owner of many of the smaller investments in the 47-stock Berkshire portfolio. This video will therefore concentrate on the larger properties. Here is the complete portfolio after all that. Beginning at the top of this list this quarter, Berkshire added to Chevron, Occidental, and Apple. They increased Store Capital, decreased US Bancorp, added to Activision Blizzard, decreased Kroger, increased Paramount Global, decreased GM, increased Selenius, McKesson, Ally Financial, and Markel, and decreased US Bancorp. Intriguingly, there were no new purchases this quarter, but several stakes grew in size, a few shrank, and Berkshire sold out of both Royalty Pharma and Verizon in the second quarter. That concludes everything. However, if we narrow our focus to the top 10 holdings, we can now spot 2 significant changes this quarter. Activision Blizzard first received 6.35% more from Buffett. This was a pretty intriguing topic of conversation last quarter since Buffett actually said he wasn't investing in Activision Blizzard for the long run. Instead, he was placing a short-term wager that the acquisition by Microsoft would go through. Microsoft declared that it would buy the video game creator earlier for $95 per share or $69 billion. If the agreement goes through, all of those shareholders will be bought out at $95, which would normally lead the share price to increase to close to $95. But the share price hasn't actually increased to $95 since the announcement, which is the catch. It has continued to hover around $80. Now that purchase is in the works and there is some uncertainty, a small gap there is typical. However, the main margin currently stands at 20%. Buffett evidently believes that gap is worth the chance that the deal may not go through. The purchase of a bit more Activision Blizzard stock in anticipation of a speedy 20% return is therefore Buffett's first significant move of the second quarter. However, the 16.26% addition to Occidental Petroleum and the 1.42% gain in Chevron is the next 2 key talking points in this 13F. Consequently, Buffett has his eye on the oil corporations. Over the past year or so, a lot of investors with shorter time horizons have entered the oil sector. The global flow of oil has undoubtedly been seriously disrupted. Buffett, though, doesn't typically invest in short-term commodity trades, so there must be more to the story. Those who have closely followed Buffett's actions won't be surprised at all to learn that Berkshire has a 16% stake in the company. And the reason for this is that in Q2, Buffett fittingly reported his increased Occidental purchases in a total of 4 Form 4 filings with the SEC. For those who are unaware, this is a file you need to make with the SEC if you change your ownership of a company in which you control more than 10%. As can be seen on Buffett's most recent Form 4 for the second quarter, he purchased Occidental Petroleum on June 23rd for between $55 and $56 per share. It gives us a good idea of how much Buffett is willing to spend for Occidental. The funny thing is that, as we sit here in Q3 2022, we can already see that he has been purchasing even more Occidental at this time. Thus, Berkshire had 158 million shares at the end of the second quarter. However, the most recent Form 4 report, which was submitted on August 8th, actually reveals that Buffett now owns 188 million shares, or more than 20% of the business. Additionally, he owns 83.9 million in warrants and 10 billion in Occidental preference shares. So while Buffett did purchase a significant amount in the second quarter, he is currently investing even more in Q3 as well. Of course, he also increased his Chevron position by 1.42%. Therefore, Berkshire had a total of $161.4 million worth of Chevron shares after the quarter. The fact that this investment has increased from 0.8% of the portfolio to 7.8% over the past year and now almost equals the amount of money that Buffett initially invested in Apple makes it fascinating enough for me to thank Tom for bringing it to my attention.